A man hung dying in front of a crowd, nails through his hands, barely enough breath left to speak, and with the last words he had strength for, he didn't improvise. He didn't cry out something new. He quoted a poem, one written 1,000 years before he was born. My God, why have you forsaken me? Word for word, from a psalm King David wrote long before Rome even existed. In the most desperate moment of his entire life, Jesus prayed someone else's words. Not because he ran out of his own, because he'd been doing it his whole life. So why would God himself choose someone else's words over his own in the one moment it mattered most? Here's the answer, and it's simpler than you'd expect. Praying scripture isn't reciting old words because you're out of new ones. It's aligning what you're asking for with what God already promised is true. Think about how you normally pray. Probably something like this. God, please help me. Please give me peace. Please fix this situation. Vague, well-meaning, but vague. Now compare that to praying a verse like Philippians 4, verse 6, directly back to God. Lord, you said I don't have to be anxious about anything, but in every situation through prayer I can bring my requests to you, and your peace, which is beyond understanding, will guard my heart and mind. That's not a generic request anymore. That's holding God to his own written promise, in his own words. This isn't a new trick someone invented for content. Jewish and early Christian believers prayed this way constantly. The Psalms themselves were Israel's prayer book, written specifically to be prayed back to God, not just read about him. Daniel, in the Old Testament, prayed through pages of scripture and history before ever making a single request of his own. The earliest Christian monks built entire disciplines around praying the Psalms in order every single week for centuries. This isn't some obscure hack. It's one of the oldest prayer practices in existence. And it wasn't just the cross for Jesus either. Push back further, into the wilderness right after his baptism. Satan tempted him 3 separate times, 3 chances to answer however he wanted. All 3 times, Jesus responded with a direct quote from the book of Deuteronomy. Man shall not live on bread alone. Worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Do not put the Lord your God to the test. He didn't argue using his own logic. He used scripture every single time, long before he ever reached that cross. The pattern wasn't new in his final hour. It was simply the last time he needed it. So what does it actually look like in practice? Start simple. Take a verse. Turn the pronouns personal. Psalm 23 begins, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Pray it as your own line. You are my shepherd. Because of that, I don't have to be anxious about what I lack today. That's it. That's the entire mechanic. Take God's own words about who he is and speak them back to him as your own confession, not just a verse you read once and moved past. Here's a short list to actually start with today. Feeling anxious? Pray Philippians 4, 6 through 7, word for word, replacing me for the pronouns pointed at you. Feeling unseen or forgotten? Pray Psalm 139, you knit me together. You know when I sit and when I rise. Feeling weak or afraid to face something? Pray Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for you are with me. Do not be dismayed, for you are my God. You will strengthen me. You will help me. Struggling to forgive someone who hurt you? Pray Colossians 3:13. Back to God. Honestly, help me bear with this person and forgive just as you forgave me. That one's hard to pray and mean it. Pray it anyway, even half believing it at first. 5 situations, 5 verses. Prayed as your own words, not just quoted at a distance. Now here's the part that trips people up, and it matters. This isn't magic. Reciting a verse isn't a formula that forces an outcome, like some kind of spiritual vending machine. That's not what any of this is about. If you pray Philippians 4:6 over a situation and treat it like a spell, expecting the problem to vanish the moment you finish the sentence, you've missed the actual point entirely, and you'll walk away disappointed and confused when life stays hard anyway. What it actually does is something quieter and, honestly, more powerful. It retrains what you're asking for in the first place. Left on your own, You tend to pray for comfort, ease, and the removal of every hard thing in front of you. Scripture prayed honestly starts shifting your requests toward what God has already said actually matters. Character, faithfulness, nearness to Him, even inside the hard thing, not just an escape from it. You stop asking God to rubber stamp your own plans, and you start asking for what He already promised is good. Paul modeled this directly in his own letters. In Ephesians chapter 3, he doesn't just wish the church well, he writes out an entire prayer, word for word, asking that they'd be strengthened with power through the Spirit, that Christ would dwell in their hearts through faith, that they'd grasp how wide and long and high and deep His love actually is. That's not a vague sentiment. That's a specific scriptural prayer you can still pray, unmodified, right now, over your own life. So here's something worth trying tonight, or right after this ends. Don't just read a verse. Pray it. Out loud if you can. Slowly. Insert your own name where it makes sense. Let the actual words of Scripture become the actual words in your mouth, instead of paraphrasing your own version of what you think it probably meant. And remember where this all started. Jesus, dying, praying a 1,000-year-old psalm with His final breath. Here's something most people miss about that exact psalm. Psalm 22 doesn't stay in despair. It opens in agony. My God, why have you forsaken me? But by the end of that same psalm, the tone completely flips. It moves into praise, into a declaration that future generations will hear about what God has done. Jesus wasn't just quoting the darkest line He could find. He was praying the whole psalm, including the ending nobody watching Him could see coming yet. Death wasn't the final word in that prayer. It never is. A man once prayed someone else's words with his last breath, and 3 days later, the ending of that very psalm came true. You don't have to wait for your last breath to start praying Scripture over your life. You can start with your next one.